Thank you for joining me on the Who God Says podcast. I am your host and Kingdom Ambassador, Ty-Shaun-Dra. Hi, hi, hi. Today we have a special guest. She is the author of this amazing book. Girl, get your mind right.
Yeah.
We have Miss Shareatha Coleman. Welcome.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. Thank you. I know it's time for everybody to start cooking. It's holiday time and everything. So thank you so much
Mm-hmm.
for jumping on with me. Ooh, I can't wait to eat, but let's focus.
Right.
Let's focus. Okay, so girl, get your mind right. The title just grabbed me. I was like, ooh, okay, we need to talk about this.
Mm.
Okay. So what inspired you to write the book and how did you come up with that title?
So, um,
Oh, it was a woosah question. Okay.
well, because I didn't really want to write the book. Like I was just kind of told throughout life that I should write a book because people would listen to my story and they were like, "You need to write a book," and I was like for what, and and so I went through a traumatic time in my life, and well, actually, no. What happened was I was watching this guy who does public speaking, and he was talking about his life and how you may not have a degree in college and all these achievements, but you do have a degree in depression and in life. And so that really stuck out to me because I know that I have a lot of
Right.
experience and trauma. Um and so I paid for his class and I started to take his class. And I was struggling a lot. And so I started like writing. So then I was like, okay, let me write my whole story out. And so I ended up writing like 50 pages
Mm,
of about everything that happened to my life until I met my mentor. And then my mentor, he was supposed to help me with a speech, but he was like, no, you need to write a book. And he
wow.
said, okay, write this book. And so I started writing the book. And so then when I got done with the book, almost done with the book, he was like, we need a title. And I was like, girl, get your mind right. Like that's how like I feel like my whole life has been is about me trying to get my mind right.
Wow.
And so that's how it came.
Wow. Hmm. So you people have been telling you, oh, you need to write a book. You need to write a book.
Yeah.
And
Because
it
of
and it
all the, because of, living with a mom that, who was an addict and, having a dysfunctional family and all the dysfunction that comes with it. And I guess they could see that I chose not to be like them. I chose to go a
Mhm.
different route, you
So all
know.
of the people that were telling you you need to write a book, were those people like in your family or was it like close
Mm.
friends?
It was
Oh, okay.
counselors, people who were like I work with,
Mm,
just people, like I had a guidance counselor that was a real close friend, just people looking in, like not people who were really close, not
okay.
like best friends or
Yeah.
family. Nah, nah.
Because sometimes we have people that tell us to do, we need to do something, and we like, oh, go ahead with all that. Until somebody
Right.
else who we hold with such esteem, they say the same thing, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should write a book.
You're so right.
Okay, so um, I know you said you experienced a lot of trauma, and you had a mom who was an addict. What are some of the obstacles you faced growing up throughout your younger life? What are those some of those obstacles that you faced, and what are the lessons that you learned from those things?
Well, um, as a child, um, my mom, being that she was an addict and she was like in and out of drugs, I learned to be compassionate and have
Mm-hmm.
empathy. And so I was always worried about my mom and making sure that she was okay, and um and worrying about what was next. And if we were, I was telling her how to be a mom because I was like, look, you having a hard time.
Yeah.
So you know um I think that as a child, I was very wise, and I could see that my mom was going to make bad decisions because she had already made bad decisions, and I could see that her friends really wasn't her friends,
Mm-hmm.
and but I didn't see that she was looking at her friends in a different way than I was. I was looking like, your friends, y'all supposed to like care about each other, but
Right.
when you're an addict and you are using people to fulfill your your addiction,
Mm-hmm.
you ain't looking at them as we buddy, we care about each other. You looking at, what can I get out of you,
Yeah.
So I realize that now. But as a child, I had to grow up fast. I will say that. Like, between me and my kids, like, I noticed a huge difference because I had to learn how to take care of myself because my mom was, my mom, oh, no, actually, okay. It's not like because she wasn't there, I had to learn how to do it myself. No, it
Mm-hmm.
was, she taught me how to do it by myself so that because she knew she wouldn't be there,
Yeah.
So it was like, you're going to do, you're gonna know how to clean, cook, and take care of, wash your clothes, do everything, and so that you're okay. So I know that you're okay because I know I'm not gonna be here.
Right.
That type of behavior. So as a child, I could do a lot more than most people my age. Like when I was
Mm-hmm.
16, I was going grocery shopping for the whole house,
Mm-hmm.
and I was, you know, doing um, I could take care of a whole household by the time I was 16,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So I grew up fast. I know that,
Yeah.
and which ended up helping me be a mom because I had kids at a younger age and was able to take care of them because I had already been taking care of my mom and taking care of myself. And and I have a brother, but my parents kind of raised us like separately,
Mm-hmm.
so we didn't really, I didn't have to take care of him because then, like I said, my mom taught us how to take care of ourselves,
Right.
so yeah. So I'd say that was the biggest lessons.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can definitely relate to that. I didn't have my mom in the household growing up. I was raised by my dad. And so I had to grow up early too. So I think that's where my little motherly over like not so much as overprotectiveness, but I'm like that watchful. I gotta know what's going on, you know. And yeah, I was taking care of household by a young age too, washing clothes, cooking, going to grocery stores, paying light bills, like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely understand. I definitely understand that. Um, so you were a teen mom.
Yeah.
Okay. You were a teen
Yes.
mom. What are some of the pressures that you dealt with um as a teen mom that you noticed your friends or other people your age they didn't have to deal with those things?
So I had my first child at 14, and so I realized immediately, like, I was no longer a child. I was like, well, okay, like, wow, this is a lot of work. And and so and so I could not, I had to go get my child after school. I couldn't do extracurricular activities. I
Yeah.
couldn't like do study groups. I couldn't get in clubs or anything that normal teenagers do, and I couldn't make the same mistakes that they made because I have this child here now, and I'm responsible for her, and I knew that I realized I had to grow up fast, like,
Yeah.
and I couldn't go to football games and just be a teenager, and I think that that's what I noticed a lot, was that those are the things that bothered me the most, was that
Mhm.
I wanted to do things and be a child, and I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. What about like in your family or in school? Like, what are some of the differences that you saw as far as with you being a teen mom? What are some of the things that you um, pinpointed, like in school, like I can't do that, or like teachers or other students would look at you different because you were a teen mom?
Well, um, I noticed that a lot of people weren't um they they wouldn't what am I trying to say, like, if we would get out of school and I need to go get my child, they wasn't I'm trying to look for the word, sympathetic to doing that. They were just like, no, I gotta go do what I want to do, and let's run the city, and let's be
Mhm.
teenagers. And a lot of people, like, um they just didn't, they're teenagers though, so they're like, I'm not willing to wait on you to go do what you need to do, and that hurt. So I didn't have a lot of friends, you know and I remember this one time my mom told me, she said, you need to find a friend who has a baby. And I looked at her
Mhm.
like, what? Like, why? But she was right. I did need a friend, because then me and her could have something in common, and then we could go do things together, because other teenagers didn't understand what we were going through,
Yeah.
and so it it was a lot to learn and to realize, like, I'm a mother.
Yeah.
I can't do these things, and I can't, you know it hurt. It hurt. But once I was able to accept that it was what it was, I was able to, grow up and take care of my child, you know.
How did your teachers and counselors and all of them? How did they react to you being a teen mom or being pregnant in school?
Well, the thing about it is that the school I went to was like it was the what am I trying to say? It was, I wouldn't say the worst school in Chicago, but
Mhm.
it was at the bottom of the list. Yeah, it was
Oh
a lot.
wow.
Yeah, it was the worst school in Chicago. So a lot of girls in my school were pregnant. So they
Um,
had like this cradle to the classroom, because there was so many of us that were getting pregnant. In my grade, there were two other girls that got pregnant too, and so they didn't really say much, because they were
okay.
so, it was a common thing,
Yeah.
and family, same thing. It was just like, people get pregnant, okay, they wasn't, my parents were very, they felt like it was my fault. They were very judgmental,
Mhm.
but they still were helpful,
Yeah.
and because they knew that there was nothing I could do at 14. Like, I can't get a job, so they have to take the responsibility of at least, making sure that my daughter has diapers and clothes, you know, and but as far as emotionally, they were mad at me
Yeah.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. I can imagine. I can imagine. Woo. No, you can't go to prom. Can't go to
Yeah.
homecoming.
Well, I went to prom.
You went to prom?
Yeah, I was that. It's so funny. Like when I was a kid, I saw my neighbor across the street. He and his girlfriend were dressed up really nice, and they had this limo. And they were like, I was like, "Where they going? Where they going?" They're like, "They're going to prom." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "I want to go to prom." So it sounds silly, but I do believe it's the reason why I was able to get out of high school was
Mm-hmm.
because my goal was to go to prom, and and you got to graduate to go to prom,
Mm.
and so with two kids, I found the way to go to prom. I went to prom 3 times. Yeah.
Three
And
times.
yeah,
Three
I went 3
times.
times. Yeah, I went to my boyfriend who was the father of my son, and then because he was a year older than me, I went to
Mm-hmm.
mine's, and then my teacher was like, "Hey, can you go to prom with this guy? He doesn't have a date." And I was like, "Sure." I love prom. I love it. I love being pampered. Like, you gonna do my hair, I'm gonna dress nice. We gonna have a nice car. Let's go.
Oh my god, that's
Yeah.
funny. This say three times. I went. I almost did not go to my prom, but I went. I went with my friend because she didn't have a date because she was a teen mom,
Oh,
so
okay.
we went together. Um, so I didn't know too many girls that were pregnant in school, but my best friend at the time, she had gotten pregnant, and so I just used to ask her a lot of questions. I know I was aggravating. I know I got on her nerves. I was like, so just ask all kind of questions. So your mama put the diapers on the baby, or you gotta put the diapers on the baby? Just all kind of stupid questions like what a baby be at when you be at school, like with all kind of stuff. It was just like all kind of stupid questions. I knew I was getting on her last nerve, but she was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I know how to put a diaper on a baby." Because that was like my
That's
role though.
funny.
Like when she got pregnant, it was like I stopped going places because she couldn't go to places. So it was like, well, I don't know what to do now. So hey, like it's like both of us was pregnant. I'll be at her house and
Yeah.
she pregnant. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
yep, I ain't have nothing else to do. That was my role, dog. We going to get something to eat. We going this place. We going that place. And after she
Mm-hmm.
got pregnant, it was like I guess I'm just coming to your house.
Yep.
Little
Mm-hmm.
small, I'm from Hollywood. We had a little small neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody, but it was like I wasn't going outside of the neighborhood by myself. I wanted to venture out with people. And she was the person I wanted to venture out with. And it's like,
Right.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
um,
I had a friend like that. We were really close, and she was just we stayed in the house together.
yeah,
Yeah,
we all
yeah.
selfish. We thinking like, okay, what I'm supposed to do now? You done got pregnant. What I'm supposed to do? Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, y'all made us bored. Oh my god. Okay, so I want to go back to um what led up to you understanding, like your understanding of the trauma that you experienced, your understanding of all of these things that turned into girl get your mind right. Like what are the things that led up to that? What were you experiencing?
Well, so when I had my baby at 14, I had postpartum depression, and so then I went to the hospital, and because I told my mom I wanted to kill myself. And so I was in there for about 2 weeks, and it was a good experience to me because I was around people who were like me,
Mm-hmm.
and to see that I may have problems, but there's people who got bigger problems,
Yeah.
and um so then So that was my first time of like actually realizing that I was depressed. Or I think when I look back, I think I was always depressed because I was always
Mm,
worried about my mom. And
yeah.
I always had anxiety about my mom because it was like we moved 8 times in 8 years. And, you know, and I need stability. Like
Yes.
I can't be all over the place. Like, like I love going to my dad's house because my dad never moved. Him and his wife stayed in the same house for like 10 years. And it was quiet and it was just stable, but my
Yeah.
mom was just like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, because that's the addict life. And so that made me very uncertain with everything.
Yeah.
And I think it made me very depressed too because I wanted my mom to stop doing drugs and I couldn't understand why. I felt like she loved the drugs more than me. And at that
Hmm.
time I couldn't understand why she loved the drugs more than me. And so that I think that's why I was very depressed, and then I was not able to be a child. Like
Hmm.
I didn't allow myself to be a child, which I regret because if I could have just said. But the thing too is that my mom would stop doing drugs, and then I'll have all this hope, and then she'll start doing drugs again, and
Yeah.
then it would go away, and then she would stop doing drugs again, and then and it was like a roller coaster. And I think that I knew that my mom was this great person when she wasn't doing drugs, and I
Hmm.
was holding on to that. And so every time she did drugs, then it was like I died inside every single
Hmm.
time she went back. And and so 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 being depressed at 14 and taking medicine and everything, and then I went out to college. And then when I got to college, they were like, "Oh, you're depressed." And I had just had a baby, my senior year, so I go straight into college, and I probably have more postpartum. And they're like, "You need, yeah, you need to see a counselor. You need some medicine." I said, "Okay, cool." So, and I struggled with that because I felt different. I was like, why
Hmm.
am I different from everybody else? Why can't I just bounce back? Why do I need a chemical to make me happy? Because, you know, life's so stressful for me. And at the time, I didn't realize that I had PTSD.
Mm.
And that's different than depression and anxiety. Like, because then you have to deal with your trauma, and I
Yeah.
wasn't really dealing with it. And so I went through a struggle of taking my medicine. I had a friend, she used to always tell me, "Girl, take your medicine." Like, she just knew that I wasn't taking my medicine because I probably was calling her more and
Yeah.
upset, and because I had a lot going on. I had 2 kids. I'm in college. I'm trying to work a job. My boyfriend is emotionally abusive. I'm like, girl,
Mm.
like, life's a mess. And so in that moment, I said, you know what? But I always stayed in counseling. I was like, I know that I need counseling. So,
Yeah.
um, so through getting counseling and taking my meds, I started to realize I was feeling better.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, there's something I need to deal with, these things in my life. But it seemed like every time I went to counseling, I was always like, I was talking about the easy stuff. Like,
Mm.
now I know that relationships are really, really hard for me.
Mm.
And so every time they would do like a evaluation to see if I still needed counseling, they'll be like, I've noticed that every time I would be like, relationships was like the big thing, and it was always on there. And never everything else would change and be like, yeah, I'm at this goal, but the relationships, no. And that's because I had no boundaries.
Mm.
Because I believe because my mom was so demanding, and she just didn't care about people's or my boundaries.
Yeah.
And so me and her argued a lot. because she was a boundary pusher. And she felt like, I'm your mom. I should be able to say and do whatever I want to you. And I was like, no, you know. And so just learning that, you know, um, that I had to get my mind right in order to be able to feel good,
Yeah.
so that I could take care of my kids and feel good about that, and stop looking and worrying about how I look at work and being
Mm.
mad at work because I can't deal with my emotions, and or school, whatever it was I was doing at the time, or both, and so it was all so for me it was about me getting my mind right, so that I was a better parent, so I could feel better for myself, so
Yeah.
that I could show up better in life everywhere, you
Yeah.
know and that was the goal. I was like, I'm about to be happy because I'm tired of being sad, and I don't know why I'm sad, so I'm gonna work on it, that was the goal. And let me
Right.
tell you, I reached the goal. I was like,
That's right.
I remember feeling it. I remember being like, dang, I'm finally happy. I'm like, I'm happy. But what happened though was that in my happiness and working for me and getting my mind right, I realized how many people weren't happy.
Mm.
And that is a hard pill to swallow, because when you just like trying to work it out and figure it out, and you know you have friends that y'all bond on the same type of issues, you have
Trauma
family,
bonding.
same thing. Yeah, trauma bonding. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you get out of the trauma bonding, y'all have
Mm-hmm.
nothing to talk about anymore, because you're like, come on, just go get some help and counseling and work on yourself, and we can, And I think that was the hardest part too, was like losing friends and family members, because I was just on a different, I don't want to say different level. I hate saying that, but I was just on something else. Because I feel like when people say level, they feel like they better than you. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying that I chose a different life. You know, and
You
yeah, I
said a
think.
lot. I don't think we have enough time to unpack all of that you said. We might have to do a part two.
Yeah.
We might have to do a part two. Because, oh, okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
So, emotional abuse from the boyfriend.
Mhm.
Mom didn't know how to respect boundaries. So, and then you have PTSD because, and
Right.
you're not good in relationship. That was a lot. A
Right.
lot. We can't even
And
unpack
I got
it.
the right, and I got the PTSD from my mama. So
Yeah. So
right.
wait a minute. Well, let's just hit a
Yeah.
few points here. Okay. So during counseling, you discovered you had PTSD, right?
Well, no, I didn't. So the thing is that I was
Hmm.
going to counseling, and I was,
Mhm.
and they were like, "You have depression, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have anxiety," and I was like, "Okay, cool," So they gave me the medicine for all that, and then and it would help to get me to knock off the edge of anxiety or whatever it
Mhm.
was I was going through. But after I found my happiness, I look back at it, and and the times have changed, and there's more
Mhm.
information about PTSD. I was like, wait a minute, I have PTSD. I have trauma. I was like, I'm like, you have trauma when you see the your family members getting high all the time. You have trauma when and throwing up in a bucket, and you got to smell it. Like you have trauma when you get your lights and gas cut off. You have trauma, when you don't know if y'all gonna have enough food. That's traumatizing. And I think that and your mom's on is an addict is traumatizing. And I didn't realize that until I was able to look back and be like, yeah, yeah.
So I
So
wanted
when I
to
was able
ask,
to,
in
go ahead.
those relationships that you go in, um, did you? You probably didn't see them in the relationships, but when you look back at those relationships, did you see any of the same thing that you were dealing with your mom that you dealt with in relationship, that you allowed in relationship?
Yes, 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 yes. I'm glad you asked that question because now I realize that I was in bad relationships because they act like my mama.
Mm, mm,
My mom was um emotionally abusive. My
mhm.
mom was, she had these bad behaviors,
Mhm.
and so and she had habits. She was a alcoholic. She did drugs. She smoked cigarettes. Like gambling, everything to ease her pain. That's what she grabbed onto.
Yeah.
And I found men who had um who had who were alcoholics and the same type of personality as my mom,
Yeah.
and I just realized that in the last like 6 months
Yeah.
that I was like, dang, all this connected to my mother, because I was always trying to fix her and make
Yep.
her a better mom. Because in my mind, I was like, moms shouldn't be like this. They
Mhm.
supposed to be normal. They're not supposed to, they're supposed to take care of their kids and be what am I trying to say? Emotionally supportive, or
Yeah.
supportive, and
They should be more
but
stable.
my right, but my mom, she was on drugs, so she was arguing with everybody. She could be aggressive, and I was like, whoa. I was like, I didn't know, like in my mind, moms are not supposed to be aggressive at all, and they're not supposed to they're not supposed to argue. That they're just supposed to have a certain type of personality, but that's not true.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized too, that that's just not who she is. And I
Yeah.
have to accept that, that if somebody wanna, test her, she gonna let them know. So I got to accept it, and that's the way it should be. She should stand up for herself. She should like not let people run over her,
Yeah.
And so I yeah, yeah, it all connects to my mom. And the men I was dating with, I was trying to fix them, and I was trying
Mhm.
to make them the men I wanted them to be, and
Yeah.
and I wanted them because I saw that they were capable of this, but I wasn't. But the whole time I knew that they weren't capable. I knew that they were liars and cheaters, and selfish and manipulative. I knew all that. But I was like, they're gonna be great one day.
Yeah. You see, you get stuck in that potential stage. You say, "Oh, I see he can potentially be," but sometimes potential is poison.
Yes, it is. Hope. Oh my God. Don't
The potential can be poison because the other person either don't see it or they don't care, and so
mm-mm.
you feel like, "Oh, it's left up to me. Let me show them. Let me motivate them. Let me push them. Let me." But you can't
Mm-hmm.
because that's poison. It's killing you too.
Exactly. And it did. It
Hmm.
did. Me trying to fix my mom as a child killed me. That's why I was depressed. Me trying to fix the men that I was with killed me. That's why I was angry and upset and all the time. Yeah, it does. Hmm.
Yep. Yep. Oh my gosh. Do you know of any of your I want to say triggers, but not necessarily triggers. But what are some of your triggers in relationships that would kind of bring you back to um that trauma or the things that you experienced with your mom in previous relationships?
Lies, selfishness. Like the minute I catch you in the lie, everything else I question. Like
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, and then, you being selfish. If you only thinking about yourself, then how you gonna think about me? And manipulative and things that you've done in other relationships that you think that there was no problem doing it. Like, yeah, I did that to that person and so what? Like what? you, you don't even question it after you out the relationship. Like, okay, you know, just I just look at people's behaviors and everything in their life, like how they have relationships with their kids and how they have relationships, with their parents, and and if it just sends a red flag,
Do
mm-mm.
you ever like let your guard down and say the minute I see this then it's done, or do you always have your guard up and say I'm not going to let you in, because this is a possibility of happening?
I think that I'm 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 more likely to give them a chance because I think that I'm judging them too harshly. I'm
Mm,
like, they can make a mistake. But recently, I've been thinking that I just need to, when I see it, no,
okay.
because something in me is saying something's not right,
Yeah.
and I need to honor that.
Yeah.
Like the minute I see it, you know.
Hi everyone! Join the Kingdom Fanatics community. Get exclusive content, green room access with our guests, and more. Visit our website at whogodsays.com. Like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate your love and support. To find all information on joining our community, being a guest on the show, donating on our PayPal donation page, and more, visit us at whogodsays.com. Now back to the show.
Or the minute I see it, I'm just gonna be distant with you and see if I'm correct in the way I feel.
Mhm. Yeah, I had an issue with relationships as well. Um, because, same thing. My mom was not a stable mom. In and out, in and out. And I used to look at my dad like, what is your problem? Like, why do you keep letting this lady come back here? Like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand that he loved her and that was all to it. For,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this previously. Like, for me, my love started having conditions. That's where I learned conditional love. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she can come back, but, you know, she can come back in here, but the minute, and so that taught me to keep my guard up, and I would never let anybody in. I've went through a bunch of relationships, and I'm not going to give you the chance to hurt me, let me
Mm-hmm.
down, to disappoint me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not giving you that chance. So yeah, on the surface we all cool. We kissy huggy, whatever the case may be. And I've had some relationships that have been about 5 years, and when it's time to go, it's time to go. Like
Yep.
when Sam Smith
Yep.
came out with that song "Too Good at Goodbyes," oh, that was me. That
Yes.
was me.
Me
When it's
too.
time to go, it's time to go. My sister used to say, "You change men like you change wigs," because baby, I gotta have me a fresh one. um, I used to like I could not break that down because my love had conditions. Like with my children, it's totally different because I always was like, I'm not gonna be like my mom was. My children have
Mm-hmm.
stability, they have this, they have that. And
Mm-hmm.
my children are who taught me that you cannot say you love somebody and then there's a reason why you love them. Because when
Right.
you love without reason, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
I had gotten to the point where it was like I had conditions on everything. And then would say that I love people and I don't love them because if I truly loved them, then I would, like I said, you would love beyond without reason. But yeah, I have a wall up. Now it's totally different. And I attribute all of that to my children, God, getting a closer relationship with Christ because when I understood how he loved without boundaries, without
Mm-hmm.
reason, without any
Mm-hmm.
conditions, and then I started to look back on my relationships and I was like, Man, I've had all these. I've been married and everything. I ain't never been in
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm.
And yeah, that the things that we go through as kids, especially when you're in a household where you do have a parent that's unpredictable, and that was the biggest thing. They're
Mm-hmm.
unpredictable. As soon as you
Yeah.
think, okay, well, she's good now, or okay, we good, she not here, we good. No, it's
Right.
very unpredictable. So you get in a relationship, you're like, I don't know what you're gonna do, I don't know what you're gonna say,
Yep.
I don't know what
Yep.
I don't know what's about to happen, but guess what? I'm gonna be good. you know?
Right.
So it's a defense mechanism, but it's also um it's traumatizing. You have been traumatized
Yeah.
and you have
Yep.
not broken down those walls to let
Yep.
anybody, even if they actually have the potential to really love you, you're not gonna let them do that
Exactly.
because you're like, for what? What you want?
Exactly.
Where you
Right.
going?
Right.
How long you gonna be here? You know,
Right.
it was a lot. So I understand when you say that translated into those relationships, yes. And then you see somebody be like,
Mm.
oh, you know, my ex-husband, he played in a band and he was so talented. He can sing, he can play trumpet, he can play just a bunch of different instruments. And I'm like, oh my God, he talented. He would be a great entertainer,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't look past what he was doing at the time. And so what he was
Mm.
doing at the time is still what he's doing now. And so,
Mm.
but
Mm.
we have to understand that sometimes we see stuff that people don't see. And if
Mm-hmm.
they don't see it in themselves, there's nothing we can do. You can't do
Exactly.
nothing. You cannot do nothing for them.
Right.
It's a hard
I
pill to
think
swallow.
it is because I think I had to learn how to let people learn their own mistakes.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing to do. Like I could see all their mistakes, but and tell them. But if they don't want to hear it and they don't believe it, they're not gonna learn. And so now, like with my children, like I'd be like, good luck. Like I like if it's a let me rephrase that. If it's a big issue, I
Hmm.
will tell them. I'll be like, look, this doesn't work for me. I think you should try this out, And if they
Yeah.
be like, nope, then I say, okay, you know. But, everything else in life, because I know the only way they're going to learn is to experience it,
Yep.
which is the same way I had to learn. I had to experience, you know, my boyfriend treating me bogus. I had to experience the lies and everything, it's for me
Hmm.
to be like, okay, I don't need this. I'm better than this,
Yeah.
because everybody was telling me, but I wasn't trying to hear that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. You don't want to hear it. Not when you're in it. You don't want to hear it.
Mm-mm.
Then you said trauma bonded. Oh my God. How awkward is it for you to have friends that you are friends because, y'all dealt with the same traumas or y'all related on those issues. And then when you work through your issues and you getting good, you looking at them and you're like, girl, you changing.
Mm-hmm. First, I would say that it hurts because, if you had my back when I was down and out, I felt like we was gonna be friends forever because I
Hmm.
felt loyal to you because you was there when I was down and out. When everybody else felt like I wasn't good enough to be their friend or to be around because of all the issues that I had going on. And so like I have a family member where we bonded, we were, we we laughed, we had each other's back, everything. And then it was like I was like, girl, you got to just get your mind right.
Hmm.
Just do what you got to do. And she just wasn't willing.
Yeah.
And I guess and that kind of and then one day she said, you only want to talk to me if we trauma bonding. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm the one that go to counseling and all into
Wow.
the psychoanalyze and everything. And I was like, and she telling me a new term. I'm trying to figure out like what we talking about. And the truth was she was right. Like the only thing we understood with each other was trauma.
Yeah.
And when I was out of it, we don't talk anymore. And it hurts because like I was there for her, she was there, she watched my kids, like we were we were good friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
family members.
Wow. Hmm.
So yeah.
It happens. Yes, it
hmm
does. Oh my
But
God.
in saying that too, though, I've learned that you have to be able to let people go,
Yes.
even if you love them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes letting go is not a bad thing.
Right.
Now, I'm not
Right.
saying this as the cut 'em off queen. I'm just saying, as the healed version of me, sometimes letting people go is a good thing.
You're right. Right. I will say that, like, I understand when you said the cut them off queen. I was like, man, I do be cutting people off, but I have to because if
Right.
your behavior is causing conflict in our relationship and it's not working for me and it's making me feel upset and
Yeah.
angry and I can't do it, so I have to just cut you off and have a boundary.
Yeah. Why do you think that healthy boundaries are important in relationships and they're important for your personal well-being?
Because in relationships and through life,
Hmm.
you have to respect yourself and people have to respect you.
Yeah.
And if you don't respect yourself or you're confused on what it looks like, then people will gladly run over you. They will. I mean, like, I felt like my job was to help my family
Yeah.
and to have their back and to, but then as I was going through life, I was like, but they're disrespectful, but they're, causing me to be unhappy in
Yeah.
my house. So I had to start cutting them off. I
Yeah.
had to start saying, no, you can't be over here. No, and it hurt. And it hurt. I had some homeless family members and I wanted to help them, but I couldn't because they would call chaos in my house.
Yeah.
And, and being and saying my family matters and I matter, then everybody else. And if you can't respect it, I remember one time I had a cousin that he could come over, hang out, every time he was down and out, he could take showers, whatever, food, whatever. I let him, And and I realized that he was stealing from me.
Mm.
And it wasn't money, but it was still the point that you were stealing from me,
Yeah.
and every time he would come around, I noticed that I started feeling like, I was just like, I don't like the way I feel with you being around. So I told him, I said, you can't come to my house no more. I
Mm.
can't do it. I said, you make me feel uncomfortable. I said, because I have to worry about if you're gonna steal from me.
Yeah.
You can't, and and he was mad. But you know what? He realized that he could not do that anymore. Just because I'm family, or just because they feel like I got it, or whatever it was. That, I'm just gonna go over to her house and And I'm thinking, as much as I'm doing for you and have your back, and then you want to sit up there and steal from me all the time, like, no.
Yeah.
And then it'd be stuff that you could ask for too. No.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
Like a bar of soap or some detergent. Like, what? So that, and through, cutting family off helped me learn how to put boundaries and, everywhere else in my life, and realize that, you know, people will use and abuse you, and I hate that though, that
Yeah.
people, instead of saying, oh, okay, she's a nice person, they say, oh, she's a nice person, let me see what I get out of her. Like,
Hmm.
what? Really? Is that where we at to this day? So so people, so you need boundaries.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Boundaries are important in everything, like you said, in everything, in relationships, at work, with family. It's
Mm-hmm.
important everywhere in everything, and especially for your personal well being. It's when you get a little bit selfish, but your selfishness is based on respect. But
Right.
that is boundaries is very important. That I had a person ask, um, they were asking about their parent. It was a lady. She was pregnant and she had a fight with her mom, and she asked about how do
Mm-hmm.
you how do you honor your mother and father like the Bible said, but they're violent and disrespectful. So
That's hard to do. I had to learn that lesson too.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
only thing that came to my mind was you have to place boundaries. You know, you're an adult now. The Bible said that you would leave your mother and your father. Now you're supposed to be married, but still, you know,
Mm-hmm.
everything is based on respect. You can honor your mother and father and still have healthy, respectful boundaries. And just say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, mom, dad, whoever it is, because she said parent, and just think it was her mom. I'm gonna say mom. But hey, mom, um, it's not okay for you to put your hands on me. If you get that angry, you don't need to be around me.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't talk to me with respect, you probably don't need to be talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that is totally fine. I'm not saying go cuss your mom up and say, don't next time. Not
Right.
that. Just have a conversation, mom. Look, mom, I don't like how you disrespect me. You talk to me crazy. You have attitude. You have to learn to talk to me the way you want me to talk to you. If not,
Mm-hmm.
we don't need to talk at all.
Exactly.
And people who want to be in your life, they want to be a part of, their grandchildren's life, they'll respect that and they'll just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if I have something I need to say out the way, say it to somebody else like they usually do.
Right. Yep. 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 You so right.
But yeah, definitely boundaries for sure. Do you have any practical tips or steps for the audience to start their journey of personal growth?
Um, I think you have to hold yourself accountable
Yes.
for everything. Like if you said you're gonna do something, then do it.
Yes.
If you um if you have to recognize that there is something wrong. Like if people are telling you that you do a certain behavior and it's bothering them and they are people that you love,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a sign that maybe you need to get some help with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then, and when you open that door to being aware of um things that happen in your life or things that you could do better or that the fact that you can do better because some people don't think anything wrong with them, they think they're
Yeah.
perfect, and that's the number one issue is that a lot of people think they're perfect. And I think that when you can say, okay, I had some trauma in my life, because I believe
Hmm.
everybody has trauma.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Now you may have a good childhood, but it's maybe something happened to you after when you were an adult. Like that was traumatized, or a car accident, or whatever. And
Yeah.
I believe everybody needs counseling. Everybody, even if it's for 6 months, a year. Like mine was terrible, but it was very long. But I believe that because as humans, we go through life is not easy,
Yeah.
and you have to be able to, well, you should um try to be able to get through life easier, and and if counseling and working on yourself and figuring out what works for you, whether that's eating right or exercising or meditating, so that you can feel better. And I'm just saying that if there are people in your life that are saying that maybe you should that there's a behavior that's not working for them, and you've
Yeah.
heard it multiple times. It's not like one person is saying that, because if one person says something to me, I'm like, okay, I take note. But if multiple people are saying it to me, there's a problem. It
Mm-hmm.
made my news. Like, example, my kids, when they became adults, I was still talking to them like they were children and trying to control their life and tell them what to do. And I realized it wasn't working. And
Yeah.
so, and they were all saying the same thing. They were like, "Mom, you're doing too much." And I was like, "Okay." So I decided that I was going to talk to them differently
Yeah.
because I love my kids and I want to have a relationship with them. And that's why I came to the point where I don't tell them what to do anymore. I just say, "Hey, I don't think this is a good idea."
Yeah.
Because when I was telling them and telling them and telling them, we had conflict. We were arguing all the time, and so I just feel like, when you're, personal development is all about, well, I deal with mental health, so it's all about that.
Yeah.
It's being able to be like, something's wrong here. Something that I'm doing, is causing issues all the time, and recognizing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think personal growth has to start with self-awareness. And
Exactly.
like you said, a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
you don't know that you might be doing something, but people will let you know. They'll tell you.
Right.
They
Right.
don't shy away from their words. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they'll let you know. Um and for me, I would say um mental health is very important. A lot of people have mental issues and don't even think that they do. Well, they don't know that they
That's the
do. So it's
problem.
like, yeah, and
Right.
they don't know that they do, and it's like, no, no. So I agree. I think everybody needs counseling. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, everyone has experienced some type of trauma, and people cannot weigh trauma. There is no line. There is nothing that tells you, oh, your trauma is worse than mine, or my trauma
Oh
is
no.
worse than yours. There is
No.
no way to weigh trauma because everybody is different. Everybody's going to react
Mm-hmm.
to something different. Like, I always give the
Mm-hmm.
example of me and my siblings were in the same house, and the way I reacted to the trauma of having a parent that was addicted to drugs was totally different from the rest of my siblings. Like, they loved her, and I was like, I could not understand it. I'm like, what is wrong with y'all? Something is wrong with y'all. So everybody
Mm-hmm.
reacts to their trauma different. There is no trauma balance. There is no trauma scale. There is no,
Mm-mm.
you got hurt more than I got hurt. You got,
Mm-mm.
there. So everybody needs counseling.
Mm-hmm.
You need some type of
Mm-hmm.
counseling, some type of therapy, whether you're going to a licensed therapy session, you're speaking to counselors at school like you did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say a community of people that have your best interest at heart. You know, it might include parents, it may not include your parents, it might not include anybody in your family, but there
Right.
will be people that have your best interest at heart, that don't want to see you fail, they always want the best for you. You know, um,
Mm-hmm.
some people can get that at church. If you don't go to church, you might be able to get it from someone in your neighborhood. It
Right.
could be somebody
Mm-hmm.
who works at a school. It can be somebody it could be the mailman. It could be the
Right.
mailman. You have that mailman that walks
Right.
the streets on that same route, that know everybody on the route, that, you know, it could be,
Yep.
I would say, seek some type of community.
You're
And
right.
for me, I'm a Christian, so I seek God first in all that I do. So my biggest thing is prayer. prayer will open the door for God to show you everything that he needs to show you. If you have something that you're struggling with, he gonna show you. You gotta go ask him though. He not gonna he's a miraculous God, but he also has a sense of humor. So he not gonna sit on the top of the trunk and say, didn't I tell you you got anxiety? He not gonna do that. But he'll show you some things. So I would say prayer for me, because that's the biggest thing that opened my mind up. It was prayer. I had to understand, I had to get into that intimacy with God so he can show me the things that I needed to work on. And that didn't mean, oh, now I'm healed.
Oh no.
Oh, God done showed me that. Oh, God done showed me that I had problems with relationships. Oh, now work on that problem.
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of them church folks. Oh, praise God. Yeah, the Lord said. Now work, because you got work to do. Yeah.
So true.
I wanna end by just asking you, what do you think is your purpose?
Well, I think that God is using me to show people what I went through, and I was able to get through it.
Yeah.
And to be a light for people. Because I had a lot of trauma and things that I overcame. And I believe that, like, I want to help people. That's my purpose.
Yeah.
Is to help them to feel better so they can show up better everywhere.
Yeah.
Like me. And if I could do that for one person, I would be happy. Because I just want them to be healthy. I'm healthy, happy.
Yeah.
Even if, like you said, like healing is a process. But at least you working on it. At least you feeling better day by day. You're not just sitting there mad, complaining. Angry at the world all the time. Causing issues in your life. Wondering why your life's so messed up. Like grow up. If you don't like it, do something about it.
Yeah.
I believe that that's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Shareatha Coleman. Tell everybody where they can get your book and where they can connect with you.
They can get my book on Amazon, and I have a Facebook page, is author page for Girl Get Your Mind Right, and then I have an Instagram page, Girl Get Your Mind Right.
Okay. And I'll have all those links in the description of the video so everybody can go and get that book, Girl Get Your Mind Right. Get your mind right. Yeah. Go get your book, and we're going to stay connected.
Yes.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Miss Shareatha Coleman, for spending time with me in this holiday season. I'm ready to eat. You ready to eat? Because I'm ready to eat.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on the Who God Says podcast with your host and Kingdom Ambassador, Ty-Shaun-Dra. Go to whogodsays.com to join the mailing list for episode premieres, upcoming guests, and more. Send in your questions to be a part of the show at whogodsays@gmail.com. And don't forget, join the Kingdom Fanatic community. Until next time, be blessed and also be a blessing.